Hello, everyone, and welcome to KGW News at 5 o'clock. We begin here at 5 with more pandemic school closures and an ever-growing list today. Both the entire Gresham Barlow and North Clackamas school districts announced they will be closed tomorrow. This is due to a surge in COVID-related staff shortages. Also, Portland's Franklin High School and Tubman Middle School announced they will be moving to distance learning as well. Their campuses will be closed tomorrow as teachers prepare for that transition. Recently, many schools have been forced to close or return to remote learning. Meantime, Portland Public Schools is accusing some of its teachers of coordinating sick-outs to try to shut schools down. KGW obtained a letter district HR recently sent to teachers. It said in part, while we certainly understand that some last-minute absences are inevitable during the pandemic, there have been a few circumstances surrounding some absences that are concerning. We're getting regular reports of educators being asked by colleagues to call in sick with the intention of causing the district to close schools. However, the letter did not elaborate on those reports or provide specific instances. The Portland Association of Teachers, the union, issued a rebuttal today saying in part, this response demonstrates how out of touch PPS administration is with what's happening in our schools and lands as an attempt to blame educators for the district's own failure to honestly and proactively address the current staffing crisis and public health emergency, unquote. And coming up tonight on The Story at 6 o'clock, we'll hear about things from the teachers' point of view in a discussion about what they faced in the pandemic. Many say it's been the most challenging time of their careers.
Clearly, we're at a crisis level where I'm a little bit speechless that this could possibly happen, that you would have to close schools because there aren't enough adults.
You can watch the full roundtable discussion with Oregon teachers coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. In response to the Omicron surge, Oregon is bringing in nearly 3,000 extra people to help deal with COVID cases. KGW's Pat Doris sat in on a state briefing this afternoon. He joins us live from the newsroom with more on that. Pat?
Well, Laurel, the state reported nearly 9,800 new COVID cases today, but that likely is missing a ton of people since the testing system is basically maxed out and a lot of home tests just don't get reported. State leaders know it's going to get worse and they're bringing in help. Among the increase, another 700 members of the Oregon National Guard who will join 500 already being deployed to hospitals across the state. They will help with non-medical tasks. Another 1,700 medical professionals will be brought in from various companies and places to help with exhausted hospital workers. Oregon Health Authority Director Patrick Allen said every person is needed.
I think we're doing absolutely everything we think we can to get as much staff as we possibly can. We're also learning more every day about what the surge might look like. You know, it really matters a lot if there are relatively fewer people in ICUs and relatively more in medical surgical beds that are there for a shorter period of time, which is some of what the emerging data says.
Among those workers, people who will help at long-term care centers. So folks too sick to be at home but not sick enough for the hospital can be moved out of those beds to the long-term care facilities.
Oregonians can't leave the hospital if they have no options for the care they need after they are discharged. In turn, long-term care facilities may have beds available, but if they're experiencing a staff shortage, they can't fill them since they can't provide adequate level of care.
So talked about testing frustrations. They know there's a ton of it out there because of a lack of testing availability in Oregon. The state has purchased 12 million tests, but so far only about 1 million have arrived, and they're being given to hospitals and community health centers. Back to you.
Thank you, Pat. Washington is also taking new action to deal with the COVID surge. Governor Inslees deploying National Guard members to several emergency rooms. Their mission is to help with non-medical tasks. He's also calling on hospitals to suspend non-urgent procedures. Hospitals are seeing a dramatic increase in COVID hospitalizations and serious staffing shortages.
We currently have over 2,000 COVID hospitalizations across the state. And COVID patients today make up about 18% of all the people in our hospitals and 22% of our ICUs. And unfortunately, those numbers are going to continue to climb.
The governor's also calling on retired healthcare workers to temporarily return to work and help hospitals get through this staffing crisis. Big decisions from the U.S. Supreme Court today on President Biden's COVID vaccine mandates. The High Court has blocked the administration's rule requiring businesses to ensure workers are vaccinated or wear a mask and get tested regularly. This applied to businesses with more than 100 employees. The court, however, did uphold a vaccine mandate for healthcare workers who treat Medicare and Medicaid patients and get federal funding. Developing tonight, we have just learned a man badly hurt in a North Portland hit and run has died. A second person was killed in a separate crash in East Portland. A total of 5 people have now died in traffic crashes in Portland since the start of the new year. Mike Benner joins us live now with more. Mike.
Well, Laurel, 5 people killed in crashes within the first couple of weeks of the new year is just awful. And what makes it worse is that last year more than 60 people were killed in crashes on Portland streets and highways. And that is the highest number of fatalities since the mid-90s. As far as these 2 most recent crashes, one of them happened just before 6 a.m. at the on-ramp to I-205 northbound at Gleason. Police responded to reports of a crash and found a pedestrian pinned under the vehicle. Sadly, the pedestrian was deceased. Now, about 12 hours earlier on North Denver near the I-5 overpass, another pedestrian was struck in what authorities are calling a hit and run. And within the last hour, we learned that man unfortunately died. I had the chance to speak to Ashton Simpson, executive director of Oregon Walks, a nonprofit that advocates for pedestrians, among other things. Simpson is just so disheartened that 2022 is starting like 2021 ended, with violent and sometimes deadly crashes on our streets and highways.
We have to do better. We have to be better. We can't continue to just say, hey, we'll let staff handle this, or, we'll continue to churn out the process that's always been. No, we have to get radical.
All right, back out here live. The names of the 2 people killed in the crashes last night and this morning have not yet been released. I can tell you that the Portland Police Bureau's major crash team is investigating. Laurel, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. New information tonight in Oregon's race for governor. The state Supreme Court has agreed to look at Nicholas Kristof's candidacy. It comes less than a week after election officials declared him ineligible because he doesn't meet the state's 3-year residency requirement. Kristof appealed the ruling. The former New York Times journalist grew up in Oregon, but voted as a New York resident in the 2020 election. However, he says he owns property in Yamhill County and considers Oregon his home. The deadline to finalize primary candidates for the gubernatorial election is March 17th. Some welcome help today for struggling workers in Portland's food industry. Employees at one restaurant got a tip for several $1,000s. Christelle Kumwe is in Northwest Portland with more on this boost that couldn't have come at a better time. Christelle.
Yeah, so I'm at Cooperativa, an Italian market here in the Pearl District. They have everything from pizza, pasta, and sandwiches. And get this, they opened right in the middle of the pandemic. And recently, they got a big boost in the midst of challenging times.
Yeah, my home, my prep dungeon.
Amber Cohen was laid off from another restaurant before finding work here at Cooperativa.
I mean, honestly, this job was a blessing in the middle of what was otherwise a really horribly stressful period of time.
The Italian marketplace, food hall and bar in the Pearl District opened in the middle of the pandemic.
In August of 2020, because we're crazy people, I guess.
We built and opened it, yeah.
Yes.
Owners Sarah Schaefer and Anna Corporel say it's been a challenging time, from working overtime to attract enough employees to seeing tips for their staff decline.
We have seen that shift, especially over the last 6 months, with tips being just generally lower, doesn't seem service related. It just seems like people are maxed out themselves.
Recently, they got a surprise assist. Customers nominated the business for a grant for exceptional service. It resulted in a $3,000 tip.
And we were so surprised. We had no idea that was coming. And for us, our hourly staff, who also makes tips, it was such a beautiful surprise, and it came right before the holidays.
The grant comes from entrepreneur Marcus Limona's nationwide $1 million program called the Great American Tip-Off. The program is making similar donations across the country to reward employees for sticking out during the pandemic.
Oh, I mean, it felt really amazing. It felt really amazing to feel seen for how hard we're working.
The money was split evenly among Cooperativa's 14 hourly employees like Amber.
I think it really shows the people who understand how hard we're working to make this a good experience.
And everyone was just so appreciative.
The more than $200 bonus for each employee is appreciated, and so is the vote of confidence from customers who made the nomination.
Seems like people come in here once and keep coming back, and the people who do really love what we're doing, and I really appreciate that.
Now, they usually average about $800 of tips each night to split between the 14 hourly employees. So this was a huge and a big bonus for these employees. Laurel?